supposed to know.
Okay.
All right.
Hello, everybody. Today we are going to be talking on Tea Talks with Terry about bladder incontinence and prolapse, which are not very commonly used terms. So I'd love to just start off by saying what those are.
Myra, I think you would be great at telling the audience.
Showcase your knowledge, Myra. You got this.
Okay.
What's that?
So, I guess first of all, let's talk about prolapse. That is a separate issue from incontinence. Well, prolapse of the pelvic floor for women is pretty much when your organs, like the bladder, the rectum, they're protruding into and sagging into the vagina. So you'll see when people have like a bulge and it looks like their bladder is literally coming out from under there. And well, that's maybe
For
more
some
severe.
reason, I feel like I heard it was like a sagging vagina, but it's not actually the vagina.
Right.
It's the organs.
Well, it's the vagina that has now sagged and allows the organs to protrude
To fall.
into it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's kind of just like everything's dropping because I guess the muscles aren't holding it in place.
Yeah.
what directly causes that?
There's a lot of things that can cause it. I guess we can start off with saying what those are. So first and foremost is having a vaginal birth. That is probably the single most greatest risk factor for developing prolapse. And we'll talk about incontinence at a separate time. So, but when it comes to having a vaginal birth, it increases more with the more vaginal births you have. So the magic number is 4. So 4 more vaginal births means that there's a greater likelihood of that happening.
And is that just because the muscles are being stretched, or is it the displacement of the organs, or is
Great
it just the
question.
stress of
It's all of
pregnancy in general?
Where's your little pelvic
It's
thing?
all of it. I think it's
That
We don't have her.
demonstrates, so the muscles of the pelvic floor, you're putting all of that pressure, like weight, pregnancy, all that. When you put pressure on that, they weaken and they stretch out. And am I explaining that correctly?
Yeah, no, that's correct. It is all those things. It's anything that puts weight and pressure onto the pelvic floor that's going to lead to it. So pregnancy has a couple of reasons why it's doing it. So it's doing it by the weight of the pregnancy itself, right? And then in addition to that, during labor itself, there's a lot of, pressure that's being placed as the baby's descending through the birth canal.
And especially the stretching.
So that's why pregnancy hits it in a couple of directions, and why it ends up being the greatest risk factor. So if you think about...
So wait, just to clarify, so in case anybody else doesn't know, the pelvic floor muscles are basically the muscles that line your pelvic bones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they support the vagina, and there's a lot of muscles there. So I forgot where I was going to go with that.
Sorry, I interrupted. It was my fault.
No, you need to.
I like that analogy you used.
That's right, the pillow.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say.
The what?
So if you think about it, because women will say, well, I had a baby, everything's fine. The thing is, the initial insult begins during that time frame. They just don't know it's happened, because it's like, the analogy I like to give is when a pebble hits a windshield and it creates a little crack, right? What happens over time? It starts to spread.
Expands.
So that's what happens during pregnancy and delivery.
Okay, so you may not experience any drastic symptoms, but the damage is there. And then if it's not taken care of, it'll get worse.
Right.
And then this is what you do, right? You repair.
Yes, this is my subspecialty. So I take care of women that have prolapse and incontinence and pain and sexual dysfunction.
So let's go ahead and explain incontinence a little bit.
Sure.
Is that caused by the same types of weakening of muscles and strenuous activity as well? Especially with pregnancy?
Yes, so incontinence basically means leaking something's leaking, and in the areas that I treat, it's going to be leaking bowels, so poop, and leaking bladder, urine. And those are the main things that can happen. And it is the same risk factors that we mentioned, which is vaginal birth. I didn't go on to several of the others, and you alluded to it, exercise. So I hate stating this one because I don't want to tell anybody not to exercise, but strenuous.
Dr. Irwin said,
Yeah.
giving everyone a free pass.
It's strenuous, constant jostling, bouncing type of exercise that induces more damage on the pelvic floor. So it doesn't mean you can't do aerobics or you shouldn't do aerobics or dance or whatever, or run. It just means that don't do it every single day. Do
Or maybe
other
if that's like
things.
the only type of exercise that you're doing and you're not really focusing on strengthening everything down there, just only doing one type.
Yeah, so you want to include, and we'll talk about this at a future talk, which is important, is the types of exercises that actually do build up your pelvic floor.
So for incontinence,
So-
is it also like gradual until you notice it, like it's really bad, or is it just like sudden?
It typically almost always is gradual, just like the prolapse. And some women, you know, they'll have the problem for a while, but don't think anything of it. They just think it's a normal part of aging and don't address it. And, you know, it just compounds over time. And then it gets to the point where it's really bad and it's much harder to treat. So that is my goal, is really to get education out so that these things don't have to happen. 25% of women have surgery just for prolapse and incontinence. That's,
Yeah, that's
20
crazy.
million American women. That's a lot. And it doesn't need to be that high.
So are you worried about putting yourself out of a job, or? My goal is to fire myself.
Okay, you found me out. I just want my husband to support me and I don't
want to work anymore.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's talk about some of the other risk factors. I know we've mentioned pregnancy a lot, but is there any other things? Is it just, could weight gain in general, or?
Actually, excessive weight gain, like we usually say about 25 pounds is kind of the average that we consider excessive. But also extreme weight loss. And I know that sounds kind of strange, but you've seen these folks that, you know, have had drastic weight losses, like 100 pounds or so. And what happens to their skin externally, right? It sags.
Yeah.
Same thing down in the vaginal and pelvic canal. So it's both drastic weight loss if it's really fast in particular, and then obesity or being overweight. And in the United States, 67% of our population is overweight or obese. So that's a lot. So again, anything that's putting stress and strain on the pelvic floor. Constipation is a big one. Women in particular have a lot of constipation problems. And so all that
Where they just like can't poop, or is the
so
poop
that's a great question.
irregular?
Some people think that it means that they can't poop. But what it means is that the stool is hard. They have a hard time passing it. In conjunction with not being able to poop. But primarily it's just the difficulty with straining. So anytime you're putting pressure again on the pelvic floor, you're stressing and straining those muscles. So if you have constant constipation and you're straining, or if your rectum is always full, it's distending things, it's stretching it out constantly. So so you really want to avoid that and take the necessary measures to prevent it.
Okay, so what are those necessary measures? I'm just putting you really on the spotlight right now.
No, that's fine, because I deal with it myself. And so I take a laxative every day, but that's from childhood destructive behaviors that I did that made it so that I have to, otherwise I don't have a bowel movement. But in general, let's say you just have some difficulty. The big things are diet and exercise again. You want to make sure you take in lots of fiber, whether it's through vegetables or other means, and lots of water, 2 to 3 liters a day, and exercise. If you're exercising, you're moving things along. Y'all have probably heard about the chocolate runs that runners have. Like as soon as they start running.
We're obviously not runners.
I don't think I've heard of that race.
The chocolate runs. So runners tend to get loose stools because of the running, because it's jostling their intestines. It's moving things along. So kind of the same concept is and if you do have a problem, let's say you're doing all of that, which I do, but then you don't have a result, then you can start out with stool softeners. And if that doesn't work, then yes, go to laxatives. Keep your rectum empty. Keep it moving, because again, not only are you causing damage to your pelvic floor, but you're also holding on to the toxins that stay in there in the stool. So along the same lines, you want to take probiotics and make sure that you're replenishing your
gut is
good
healthy.
bacteria. Yeah. Some other risk factors that you can remember, since she's in the office with me.
So we've covered weight
Vaginal
loss
birth.
or vaginal birth or pregnancy in general.
Yeah, because you can have a C-section and still have
constipation. My mind is blanking out.
I have a different question. Does anybody have a squatty potty?
Yes.
Yes. What do you know about the squatty potty?
I know the infomercials with the unicorns, right?
Don't you have a college roommate?
Yeah, in my dorm, it's 7 of us sharing a bathroom, so someone just brought it in, and it's just like in one of the bathrooms in my dorm, and we all just use it, because like she kind of
Someone cares about you.
Yeah, she's just like, hey y'all, I'm just gonna bring this in here, and
Watching
it's
out for you.
there. She like made a whole infomercial for us, and like she basically told us how great it is.
Demonstrating.
Tell them what it's for.
So basically, if we watch her video on the 7 proper positions on how to pee, it just helps raise your, you put it on this, like under the seat, and then you like bring your legs up on it, so like your legs are up.
It's like a little stool.
Exactly.
And so when you're sitting on the toilet, your legs are actually a
higher.
little bit
So you kind of
raised.
feel like a caveman, but it helps.
Which is the proper way to sit.
Well, yeah.
I think like the idea behind
Squat.
it is it changes the angle, like so the pressure that you're putting on your muscles and poopy area. Intestines, yeah. It just changes it a little bit so that it's easier
It helps
for you.
Things move
To
along.
eliminate. Exactly. You're so smart. Why are you asking me the questions?
I watched
You
TV.
have a degree.
I have no idea if it's factual.
Marketing.
Fact
here
check
for the
with
facts.
Dr. Teresa Irwin. I've got the stories, you've got the facts.
So a few more risk factors. Smoking. Smoking has
Interesting.
tons of toxins in it, and one of them is very damaging to the pelvic floor. So just like women and men that smoke chronically, they have wrinkles because it's reducing the collagen. So smoking reduces collagen everywhere that it's normally produced, and in the vagina there's type 1 collagen, and when that's reduced through smoking, of course, then they have a greater risk of prolapse and incontinence. So chronic asthmatics, because they cough a lot, so chronic coughers, they could be smokers, but some people are not that have asthma, and so chronic lung disease will be another one, or people that have allergies or are constantly, again, coughing, sneezing. So one of my friends who's an occupational therapist that specializes in pelvic floor therapy, she often will say, squeeze before you sneeze. So there are people who have occupations.
Squeeze what?
We'll talk about that, how to properly do Kegel exercises is what we mean there.
Like squeeze as in just like,
No, you're squeezing your anal sphincter. So most of us
flex your sphincter.
Did anyone just do it like as she was saying it?
I think we know who just did it.
Cameraman's doing it.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
How could you tell?
It was the look.
If
Lucky
you're doing
guy.
it properly,
So
you
clean.
can't tell. Okay, that's what Tiffany
It's true.
Lee
If
told me.
you are concentrating that hard on it, that probably means that you are not doing the right muscles. But we'll have a discussion on that one because it's important.
Yeah.
So is the only solution for like prolapse and incontinence like doing a surgery like in your case like that you do, or is there like, steps
Definitely
you can
not.
take before that?
Yeah, you definitely want to do non-surgical treatments first. And there's a whole slew of them depending on what you have. What is falling, what's prolapsing, what is leaking, or is it both or all? So,
Yeah.
is it both or all three?
All right. Well, I think that is all the time we have left for today. Thank you so much for watching. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave it in the comments below, and hopefully we'll make a video with all of those soon. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, I wasn't that delayed.
By the end of this series, you're going to be like right on time.
Yeah.